Well, hello again, everybody. Welcome back to Backstage Bimbo TV. My name is Allison Rouse, your most notorious groupie and author. We've got tonight The Life and Times of Notorious Groupie, me. Thanks, everybody, for returning, everybody that's subscribing. Really great to meet you guys. Really great to be able to talk to you guys. It's so awesome. Thank you so much for all your wonderful support and subscribing and getting me out there. You guys rock. Thank you so much. Speaking of rock and roll, we're going to have a little bit of rock and roll. We're going to have a little bit of Hollywood. We're going to have a little bit of hole-in-one today. Because on Cocktails and Rocktails, we're going to my Vegas years. And we're going to talk about the night Cousin and I, Amy, accidentally stumbled upon to the VH1 Golf Tournament after party. Sounds crazy, but we really didn't know half the shit that was going on in Vegas that we ended up going to. So, and today, in honor of that, we are going to have a hole-in-one. Cocktail, that is. I don't know if I had a hole-in-one that night or not. We'll have to listen to the vlog and find out. So, everybody, grab your holes, kick up your feet. Let's have a little cocktails and rocktails, shall we? Cheers, big ears. All right. So, this is around 1997, probably September, October-ish. I really cannot remember because I don't have a pass. I don't have anything besides the memory. But it did really happen. So Brian Setzer was actually playing, and Cousin Amy and I, like I said, we had no clue half the time what was going on in Vegas at the events that we ended up at. Hardly ever. So we go into the Hard Rock, our regular haunt, as usual. Start to just head towards the center bar. And we'd grab a glass of champagne and kind of wander around and, like I said, split up and see what was going on. Well, this time we decided to just sort of grab our glass of champagne and go together. And as we were passing the joint, and like I said, the joint was a very small venue at the time. I will post a couple pictures down below at the end of the video for you guys to see, because it was not more than a 3,000-seater kind of theater, and then with an upstairs balcony. Couldn't hold that many people. Dressing rooms were upstairs. So as we're walking by the doors, we see all the security guards we know. We're like, hey, how are you guys doing? They're like, ladies, you need to be in here. Well, what's going on in here? We wondered out loud. It was a VH1 Golf Tournament party. He's like, there's a lot of musicians, actors and stuff in there. He's like, come on in. And both just opened up both doors, and Cousin Amy and I just sailed in. And we looked around, and we see a few people. You know, Roseanne's there. We see little Stevie, as you guys know him from The Sopranos. What was his name? I love The Sopranos, too. I love that show. But originally, Bruce Springsteen's guitar player, Steve Guttenberg, bunch of other actors and musicians and stuff. I think a couple of David, the keyboard player from Bon Jovi. So we kind of look around. We're, all right, seems like a fun place to be. So we go over to the bar and we see one of our favorite bartenders, Chattels. We love Chattels. So he grabs our Dom Perignon, puts it in the glass, sets our bottle to the back in a little cooler, and we go off to make our night. And we're talking to one of the security guards. I'm like, I really want to talk to little Stevie because he's pretty awesome, but I'm kind of afraid to approach him. And we're kind of looking back and forth at each other. And security guard's like, oh, come here. I got you. He's like, when have you ever been shy? I'm like, in reality, I am actually quite shy. And I always say the boldest women are always the shyest because we have to be bold just to have a conversation. So he takes me over and introduces me to little Stevie. Cousin Amy's off wandering somewhere else. I don't know. So I'm standing there talking to little Stevie. It's like, I don't even know what we were talking about the golf tournament, if he was playing golf, you know, what was going on with Bruce Springsteen, whatever. Had a chat. He was asking me if I lived there. Just normal conversation. So I leave little Stevie alone because, like, I think he's a really awesome musician, but I don't want to fuck him. You know, just because I'm a groupie doesn't mean I'm going to have a mattress back for everybody. So, find Cousin Amy again, and all of a sudden, as we're standing there talking, we go to get another glass of champagne, we refill. We're just standing kind of away from the bar, looking to see, you know, where's our next move. Before we can even make a move, comes Steve Guttenberg. Three men and a little lady. Disney's finest boy. Wasn't so fucking Disney this night unless Disney started to make porn. So anyway, and Cousin Amy and I are in total mini skirts. We don't care. You know, we're just here to have fun. They're like, oh, Brian Setzer is debuting his orchestra, his swing orchestra. It was like the actual live debut of that, and it was around the debut of his album. So it was really awesome to see, and we were really excited to see that part of it. So as we're waiting for Brian Setzer to go on, like I said, Steve Guttenberg comes up, kind of wanders in between me and Cousin Amy, introduces himself, has his manager with him. We're talking. You know, he's actually not a bad-looking guy in person, and he's really got a great personality. And so we're just kind of talking and flirting, and he stands between us, and Brian Setzer, they're getting ready to introduce him and stuff, so we all turn to the stage, and he goes on, and we're like, wow, this is so cool. This is a swing band, Brian Setzer with the Stray Cats. How awesome is this? Next thing I know, I feel this hand under my skirt. And we both, like I said, had short skirts on. Big heels. No knickers. And I realized that it's Steve Guttenberg's hand cupping my butt. Not getting really too fresh, but then I kind of lean forward and look at Cousin Amy, and she does the same thing to me, and I realize because Cousin Amy and I are like, we're so connected. We've had a few past lives together. That's how connected she and I are. We just have to look at each other, and we knew right then and there that he was cupping both of our asses. Like, what the fuck, dude? This totally ruined every, well, I've only really ever seen Three Men and a Baby. So, oh, and what was those police academies? Of course, saw those in the 80s. So Cousin Amy and I are just like, okay, I guess we're running with it. Like I said, he was just touching our butt cheeks, wasn't getting totally, normally we probably would have knocked the guy into next week, but like I said, we just kind of had to make sure that this is really happening. So we're talking to him and stuff and watching Brian Setzer. He's going back to grab us and he's all impressed. He's like, the bartender said, if it's for you ladies, this is your dom. He's like, ooh, you bought your own dom. I'm like, we don't ever buy dom in this town. Are you kidding? We get comped here. So he, just started talking. Ended up somehow giving him our phone number because he had to go with his manager to do something, or they wanted to go to a strip club. We didn't want to go. We're like, you go. And we didn't tell him we were strippers or anything. Nobody asked. So we end up leaving, go back out to the main floor of the Hard Rock to the center bar. Grab some more champagne on the way out, grab our bottle, drinking it. As we're at the center bar, standing there talking, deciding, okay, well, we saw a really cool show, Show had gotten over, all the celebrities, talked to little Stevie some more. Like I said, went out to the center bar. Well, all of a sudden, here comes Brian Setzer. Well, hello, Brian Setzer. And he's actually a good-looking guy. And I thought, he's cute. So him and whoever, he had another guy with him. They stop and start talking to Cousin Amy and I. We introduce each other. We're talking. We're flirting. About 30, 45 minutes go by. And Brian Setzer and I are kind of getting really flirty with each other. Sorry, Karen. But kind of hitting on each other. And so finally, after a while, it had to be more than 45 minutes or an hour, because we went through 2 glasses of champagne while we were all standing there talking and just sort of watching stuff and people watching, whatever. Talking how that was a really great show tonight. I look at Brian, I said, well, because after all the flirting, the talking we were doing, that vibe, I was like, so, you want to go upstairs? Because I'm bold like that. I'm not going to wait for the guy to ask. Like I said, I'm a man-eater. Nobody's womanizing me at all. It's quite the opposite. I will go for whatever morsel of rock star juiciness breakfast treat that I want to. And that night I wanted Brian Setzer. Well, once again, after all that flirting and lovely fun, he's like, well, I'm married. So I stopped and looked at him and said, okay, well, give me a call when you get a divorce. And he has since gotten a divorce from that wife. So just sort of being a bitch, walked off. Didn't think anything of it. I said, hey, have a great night, guys. You know, we said goodbye. Cousin and Amy and I ended up going home. When we get home, and there's a couple voicemails. Who is it? Steve Guttenberg. So we call him back at his hotel, the Hard Rock, obviously. And we're all talking and hanging out. And then Cousin Amy and I, and this is when landlines existed, and we both had one in our room, a portable one. So we go grab our phones, and we're both talking to him on each line. And we end up having phone sex with Mr. Steve Guttenberg. I mean, he was probably the only one having sex. Cousin Amy and I were sitting on the kitchen counter eating ice cream. You know, because guys, women do that. Well, we're telling you, I mean, unless we're really into you or like your husband, wife, whatever, you know, something like that, half the time we're having phone sex, we're multitasking, really. And we could be having phone sex, but women, we can get off a little bit quicker than you when we're determined to get off, and that's all we're doing. Trust me, it's quicker than a guy. We don't need that much. But we need a lot when we're with a guy. But anyway. So yeah, we end up having phone sex with Steve Guttenberg. Didn't even know this fucking whole VH golf tournament thing was in town. Ended up playing with Brian Setzer, but like I said, got blue-balled because he said he was married. Phone sex with Steve Guttenberg, but you know, like I said, the craziest thing when we felt his hands go up our dresses. Said not so Disney that night, was he? But many years later, not long after John Entwistle passed away, I was in LA, sitting at his best friend's house. We're having a drink, smoking a joint, probably a chocolate martini and a Sammy sandwich, my favorite things to eat at size. And the phone rings. He's like, hey, mate, hey, Brian, how you doing? Good. And he starts talking and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, hold on. I'm like, who is that? And because I was thinking it was another Brian and Suze that was also friends with John and Cy. And I was all excited because I liked Brian and Suze quite a lot. They were great people. And he's like, oh, it's Brian Setzer. Oh, really? We all know me being sarcastic, cheesy mama that I am. I'm like, hey, tell him that girl. And he's like, oh, yeah, he's going through a really bad divorce. He's fallen off the wagon, drinking. I'm like, oh, really? I said, so why don't you tell him that girl he met in Las Vegas at the golf tournament is sitting right here. And if he's divorced? And he was like, what? And he was like, wait a minute. He's like, do you know a girl? Did you ever meet a girl in Las Vegas at a VH1 Golf tournament? Brian's like, yeah, I did. That was quite a few years ago. Holy shit. He's like, well, she's sitting here and I just told her you were divorced. Does that mean anything? Well, by the time it didn't mean anything to me. So, did we hook up? Did we not? No, we didn't hook up. I never hooked up with Brian Setzer. Because like I said, by the time years later, 2002, this is 5 years later, I was over it. Hell, honey, half the guys I slept with, I was over 5 minutes after I slept with them. Pretty much. Like I said, if I was born a man, I would have been Steve Jones. So there we go, guys. There's some more fun in my Vegas years. Another unplanned night. Some of the best nights I've ever had are totally unplanned. Like that night. And just because we didn't sleep with anybody doesn't mean like it wasn't a fun, crazy night. Because like I said, who would have thought? I mean, I got to meet little Stevie from the E Street Band, and this is before the Sopranos. Got to meet a lot of other actors and stuff. This is when I'd already met Jack Nicholson. He was there playing as well. So he's like, you're going to be at work tomorrow? I'm like, yeah, Jack, I'll be at work tomorrow. Don't worry, because he was a regular of mine at my strip club. So, it was a really great night. Ended up phone sex and ice cream with Steve Guttenberg. And unfortunately, no one ended up with a hole-in-one. At least not that night. So, there you go, guys. Another little cocktail and rocktail, little good Saturday night in Las Vegas. So, don't forget to subscribe. Hit that button. Hit the share, guys. Share it all you want. Pass me around. Go ahead. It's the only time I'm going to be okay with that. So hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share away, hit the bells. Join me next week for some more cocktails and rocktails. Thanks, guys. See you on the flip side. And cheers, big ears.